I hereby reconvene the September 9th, 2014 meeting of the Marion County School Board at 6 p.m. Good evening. For the courtesy of those listening to the meeting, I'm requesting everyone in the audience, please turn off your cell phone or put them on vibrate. Mr. Rick Lankford, Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, will be assisted by Mr. Theresa Ellis, Executive Director of Business Services, will be providing us with inspiration and leading us in the pledge this evening. Well, we got the big dogs tonight.
We do have the big dogs indeed, Mr. James. Good evening, Board. We have lots of places in our system that we can find inspiration, and the area of finance is no different. They have an outstanding record, one we can all hope to achieve. And again, they have been awarded an honorary plaque that I'm going to read and present to Ms. Theresa Ellis, who represents our finance department, made up of men and women. We finally have some men in the department again, so that's always good to see. This is from the Government Finance Officers Association. Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, presented to School District of Marion County, Florida, and it is signed by the Executive Director. So, Ms. Ellis, on behalf of the entire system, we appreciate all the work you do and all the work that your fellow folks over there in finance do, and just an outstanding job. So I'm going to present this to her, ask her to say a few words, and then she'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Boston.
Thank you, and good evening. As we've said year after year, it's not just an award for the finance department. First of all, we appreciate your support as board members and our administration that continually to support the work that we try to do every year. I'd like to recognize Alice Posada, who is our Director of Finance, and she leads the preparation of AFR, as well as Jennifer Cole, and she's our budget analyst. And as Mr. Lankford said, is a huge department, not just our finance department, but purchasing, central warehouse, food service, all of those play a large part in making sure that we are recording expenses and revenue as required by the Government Finance Association. So on behalf of them, I want to say thank you for this recognition, and I am very proud to be a part of this department as well as an employee of Marion County Public Schools.
Will you lead the pledge?
So will you please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford, would you make a few remarks to our department for?
I'd be delighted, Ms. Ellis, and your staff that's here. The board is I know every member is delighted about this continuing row of successes that you have that you've had, extended back to Mr. Barrett, but that you're keeping the hard work up. And when I've been at the FSBA meetings, Marion County is spoken of very highly by other counties about the professionalism and the competency that's in your department. So on behalf of the board, thank you.
We would just like to add now, this is 14 years.
Wow.
This is 14 years, and if you can do anything.
13.
13.
We're off 13, aren't we?
Yeah, I thought so.
This is 14. So again, guys, 14 years of doing this and really being exemplary. Let's give another round of applause. When I say her, I'm talking about the whole department. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the agenda for the September 9, 2014 school board meeting with the materials in the board packet, those materials distributed to board members at the meeting, the audio recording and DVD included as part of the official record of the meeting.
May I have a motion on this motion on the superintendent's recommendation?
Second.
The motion by Mr. Crawford and it was second by Ms. Ely. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 7, 2014 administrative briefing and work session, the August 12, 2014 school board meeting? May I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Ms. Boynton and second by Ms. Ely. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to adopt the final fiscal year 2014 budget resolution number 40 for special revenue funding for food and for food service? May I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Ms. Ely and second by Ms. Boynton. Are there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion? The motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to adopt the final fiscal year 2014 budget resolution number 41 for the general fund? May I have a motion? Second.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Boynton, second by Ms. Ely. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passed 5-0. 4-1. Oh, okay. The motion passed 4-1. May I have a motion to adopt the final fiscal year 2014 budget resolution number 42 for capital project fund? May I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Ms. Boynton, second by Mrs. Ely. Any discussion?
This is the final budget approval?
It's-
Capital project. Just the capital projects? Okay, okay. No problem.
Closing out budget year 13-14.
Okay, on the capital side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to adopt the final fiscal year 2014 budget resolution number 43 for debt service fund? May I have a motion and second?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Boynton, second by Mrs. Ely. Any discussion?
Is this the final budget?
This is,
When are we
Debt.
getting to the final?
that was number 2 that we voted on.
Oh, I missed it.
Yes, you did.
Okay, any discussion?
Can I call it back?
You voted in the affirmative.
Seeing none, all in
You
favor
can.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'd like to say something. I voted in the affirmative, and I'd like to call my vote back on item number 2. I believe it was number 2.
It's item 7, actually. It's item 7.
It's next to item 7.
No, it is item 7 under resolutions.
You wanting to rescind your vote on item, which one, what's your number?
Yes.
Number what?
I was saving that for the very
It's the
end.
general fund. The general fund, Ms. Stacy?
Number 7.
It was number 7.
All right, go back to number 7. Okay, and we'll work it way through it. Okay, board, let's note that, we will note that the motion still would pass 3-2. Okay, so you can do it, Ann?
And I would like to can I make a comment?
Okay, the motion, before I announce that, Ms. Stacy, you had something you wanted to add, you wanted to say.
Yes. With the budget, I still strongly believe that we could have supported the art and music programs. And I believe we have the money to fund them, maybe not to their fullest extent, but I believe that we have not done our students right. We have not fulfilled our responsibility to provide a uniform education for all of our children. Children at schools that have 400 students and children at schools that have 800 students have the same amount of instructors for PE, art, and music, and library, yet there's twice as many students receiving the same service, and I honestly don't even know that that's legal because it's not uniform. Different children are receiving different amounts, and I believe that our complacency is just fostering complacency, and this has been going on for 50 years, and somewhere we got to stop. You know, it seems like the FTE that's tied to the student's warm body, somehow the district believes that that's to support the district. I believe it's to support the students, and so I do not support the general fund, and I do not support the budget, and so thank you. I have voted against it.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, the vote stands 3-2. Okay. Thank you. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the 5-year district facility work program for the fiscal year 2014 to 15 through for the 2018 through the 19th?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Crawford and second by Ms. Boynton? Okay. Mr. Superintendent.
The board is required by statute to issue an annually updated 5-year work program of all projected school system capital outlay construction projects and major maintenance projects. The associated project costs are equal to the 2014-15 capital outlay budget. Upon approval, the 5-year work program will be submitted to the Department of Education for their approval.
I declare a public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the 5-year district facility work program for the fiscal year 2014, 2015 through the fiscal year 2018 through 2019? Are there any discussion? Are there anyone here? In a discussion board?
Well, I would like to say that Mr. Knight presented this information to us during a workshop, and he did a very good job of presenting the information, making sure we understood where we fell at in our financial needs for the next coming years, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The budget process involved public hearing to be held in the following order. Rollback rate capitulation and the tentative budget amendment to conform to the final budget. B, resolution to determine the revenue and millage level. And final budget resolution. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, the total millage to be levied is greater than the rollback rate by 2.62%. The required local effort millage rate is greater than the rollback rate by 2.37%. Each school board participating in the state allocation of funds for the current operation of schools must levy the millage set for its required local effort from property taxes. As a result of work sessions held by the board since the adoption of the tentative budget of $474,897,472 on July 29, 2014, the following changes have been made and have been incorporated into the proposed final budget. Number 1, increase in expenditures for instructional supply allocation for teachers. 2, reallocation of project costs in the capital projects fund due to rollover balances in the district's 5-year facilities work plan. 3, changes in fund balance, an increase in general fund revenue for the funds received in July for the prior fiscal year, adjustment for art and music teachers, added on July 29th and then removed on August 26th, and reduction in general fund transfer from capital funds due to decreased costs for property insurance premiums.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board amend the adopted tentative budget to conform to the proposed final budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015? May I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
It was moved by Ms. Ellis, second by Ms. Boynton. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to address the board concerning the rollback rate or amended tentative budget? Are there anyone here that would like to address that? Okay. Discussion? Any discussion, board? Call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passed 3-2. Thank you. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, the School Board of Marion County, Florida proposes a total millage rate of 7.2980, which is greater than the rollback rate of 7.1117 mils by 2.62%. I recommend the board adopt the resolution determining revenue and millages to be levied for fiscal year 2014-15.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board adopt the resolution determining revenue and millage to be levied for the fiscal year 2014-2015? May I have a motion and a second?
Moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Crawford, second by Mrs. Ely. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to address the board concerning the millage? Okay. Have him fill out a form and he can come up. Come on up, he can come on to it. Please give us your name and...
Sure, my name is George Roberts. I'm a resident of Marion County since 2004, Southwest Marion County. And I wanted to urge the county commissioners to, and I have my tax bill here for my property, and I wanted to urge the county commissioners to, it says if the proposed budget change is made, that there will be an increase. I would like to urge you to not make that change, to actually keep the prior funding levels for year 2015. I believe that there's enough money going into the schools and that education needs to have strict accountability of teachers and administrators, and that the funding of schools at the prior year's tax level is more than sufficient.
Okay, now, you know, you said the county commission when you first came there.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. This is the actual school board, correct?
Good, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I meant school board. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you, board.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Call the question then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion passed 5-0. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 in the amount of $476,321,535.
Okay. May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board adopt the final budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015 in the amount of $476,321,535. May I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
It was moved by Ms. Ellis, second by Mrs. Boynton. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to address the board concerning the final budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Appearing again, George Roberts, resident of Marion County. And again, I ask that you reduce the final budget to the maximum extent possible to last year's budget as shown on the tax rolls, and that you not increase them for this year. And I believe that you should enforce accountability in the schools using the monies that you have at last year's funding levels. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is anyone else? Board.
I have something to say.
Okay, we'll go to Ms. Boynton, and then we'll go to Ms. Stacy.
I'm voting for the budget with full knowledge that it can be amended as needed. However, I want to address the concerns of the community wherein there is a perception that our budget of $476 million is used inappropriately. Many think that we staff our administration first before we staff our schools. However, each year, we receive a staffing plan from our schools of their needs, and that includes the teachers and the paraprofessionals. And the administration does the same. That includes our bus drivers and our custodial workers. We then have an idea of what the district needs. There is no slush fund, but we have a general fund balance with a reserve of at least 3% as required by the legislators. Some of those funds cannot be transferred from department to department, as most of our funding is categorized. This year we have met and decided that meeting class size was a must, and we hired over 246 new teachers. The technology department had needs. That was to help meet legislative requirements. Our board may seem to be expensive, our needs seem to be extensive, yet we still don't have enough to place back the much-needed librarians, music teachers, arts, and PE teachers. We have a very good finance department that is physically conservative with your tax dollars. So I approach this vote using common sense and knowledge that along the way, if an amendment is needed, we will do so. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stacy?
Well, I guess I'll just have to disagree with Mrs. Boynton. Apparently, since last year, the only people that lost their positions were teachers. We must be staffing the classroom last. We get down to the classroom, and we're out of money to the point last year that we were told that approximately 4 or 5% of our teachers would need to work for half pay and no benefits. Had they been staffed in the budget first, we'd have gotten to the other side and noticed that someone else would need to work for half pay and no benefits, not the teacher, not the classroom. So we were told the sky was going to fall, Miss Stacy, we cannot pay for this, and it was going to be several $1 million, and we weren't going to be able to do it. Well, I proclaimed that it was illegal what we were doing. And in fact, we even paid our school board attorney $4,000 to make this little book that she could have put the phone book in for what it meant to say I was wrong. And then a few weeks later, along comes the PERT board that says, yes, Mrs. Stacy's right, this is illegal. So suddenly we had to come up with all that money that this time last year in the summer, we didn't have the money for. And we came up with it. And my goodness, at the end of the year, not only had we funded all of those positions, but we had a slush fund of money left, equal more than what those teachers were going to find, so much so that we had $3 or $4 million left in the pot this year. And last year, the sky was going to fall if we paid our teachers full pay and half pay, and if we paid them full pay and full benefits. So now, Mr. Crawford and I wanted to bring our art and music teachers back and at least try to balance things with art and music, which is basically half the amount that we were told last year the sky was going to fall if we spent it on the teachers' salaries. And again, the sky is going to fall. So I predict next year at this time, we'll have that much money left over. And, we could have paid the art and music teachers, maybe not had the music programs that we could have if we were rolling in dough, but at least the students would be exposed to some of these things. And after all, this is the classroom. But last year, not a single person lost their job except teachers. And it looks like the classroom's taking a hit again this year. And I do believe that we build the budget from the top down, or we wouldn't keep running out of money when we get to the classroom. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Ms. Ely?
I want to make a comment on what Ms. Stacy said. I wanted to remind you, Ms. Stacy, and the audience, that the art and music teachers that they were trying to reinstate was only going to be for this year. We didn't have recurring funds for that. And as much as I want to have them, I've got 5 grandchildren in our schools, we've got to be guaranteed that we're going to have art, music, PE, media every year. And that's why we voted that down. We couldn't just have it for 1 year with no guarantees for the following year. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford.
Ms. Ely, there was a guarantee. We're going to get as much next year in revenue as we've gotten this year. It was not a 1 year. It's only considered a 1 year because we only pass a budget for 1 year. But they were going to be a priority. The money would be there. I think we are wrong by denying our children this. We've heard excuses coming from the administration. They can't hire them until mid-year. Well, that cuts the cost in half, so now it's only $900,000 instead of $1.8 million. It's just really sad. We could do it. We owe the children it. It's sad that we're not doing it.
Okay, and again, I have to disagree with Mrs. Ely. Apparently, she wasn't listening when I was talking at a workshop meeting about the fact that we approved some of the technology spending out of the general fund. We bought some school remediation. We bought some things, some school programs out of the general fund, and you add all those up, and we could have used the leftover fund balance from last year for the one-time purchase of the technical stuff, Mrs. Ely. And yes, but instead, we used the recurring type funds, well, what you would call out of the general fund, the per student FTE dollars and such, we spent for a one-time purchase where we could have flipped the budget around. But I know why we did that. I know we did it so that we could make this argument, except I'm showing that the argument is a bogus argument, Mrs. Ely, because if you look at, I went back in the budget and I looked at how much we spent on technology out of the general fund and how much we spent out of some other programs out of the general fund that were one-time purchases that we could have spent that fund balance dollars for, but we chose not to do that. So it's just the way we presented the budget. And I know we did it to try to make it look like the sky was going to fall like we did last year, but the students are the only ones that's going to be hurt by it. And like I've said, this is today for some, and it's yesterday for many. And it looks like it's going to be yesterday for another group of students who will not get music. Their librarians, their libraries will be closed and will be dark half the time, and unless there's an assistant or someone in there working. And so we rock along as the renegade district. Thank you.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ely. The thing I want to just share with you, one of the key things that I've always said when we're looking at the budget is that we need to look at what we're trying to do with student achievement. Because the bottom line is, when people look at our county, they look at what we're doing in terms of our test scores and things like that. And I feel very strongly that in order for us to move our school district, we have to look at the programs that we cut that was moving us academically. And these are the programs that we had in the afternoons, where we had these kids coming in during the summer and providing the assistance that they need. I want to make sure that all of us understand that the board really understands the music, art, and PE, but we have to look at where we want to go. It's important as we begin this process to understand that we will be looking at student achievement again next year in terms of what we're doing in terms of moving our kids forward. So this is what this is to me. It's student achievement, and our funds should be there, and this is bringing back the programs that we have cut off the academic side. Mr. Superintendent, do you have anything?
No, sir, only to say that I appreciate the fact that we've had an opportunity to go through 4 different workshops. Our administration has worked very hard in preparing a budget that we stand behind, and we're very much looking forward to managing this budget with you throughout the next school year.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Oh, no. Point of order. I would like to call.
The fact that we only went through 4 workshops with a budget of $470 million, does that make sense to anyone?
Okay.
We've worked about 10 hours on this, folks.
Point of order. I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oops. Nay.
Okay, the motion passed 3-2. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item C23, which has been placed on the regular agenda for discussion? May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Mrs. Ely, second by Mrs. Boynton. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is it up there? Go ahead. Okay. The motion passed 5-0. Okay. May I have a motion? Woo. What do we got here? You're correct. May I have a motion to reject the corrective action plan presented by the Francis Marion Academy? May I have a motion and a second?
To reject it?
Reject it.
To reject it.
I just removed it off the consent agenda.
Well, we have to have a motion and a second for this.
So moved.
And I'll second.
It was moved by Mr. Crawford and second by who? Ms. Stacy? Ms. Stacy, you withdrew this item.
Right. Our charter school, we have students in it, whether this district agrees, the district administration, whether y'all go along with charter schools or what, or school's choice. This school has a lot of students over there that are depending on us making, not turning their world upside down right now. And I spoke with Mrs. Boston Ellis today about this, and I know they've dug themselves out of a hole. We know that they had an unfortunate circumstance with an employee. We know all of that, and it did affect their enrollment, and it did affect them seriously. And when that happens in a traditional school, we have a lot of schools to go in and kind of pick up the slack financially, and students actually can't move from the traditional school because their zip code says they have to go there. So therefore, it's not like they're going anywhere, but the charter school students are not held there by a zip code, so therefore the parents do have the choice to leave the school when there's turmoil temporarily like there was. And I also happen to have heard some rumors in the community around, and in fact there will would ask Mr. Vianello if this has ever been stated that that when there's children that are having a hard time struggling in the regular traditional schools, that they're suggested they have level 1 and 2 FCATs, that maybe they go over to the charter school. So they ended up with the previous principal had taken in a lot of students that had, poor FCAT scores, and I don't believe that the board really realized what was happening, so therefore they've just been turned upside down over there. They were able to take care of all of their financial issues. They paid everybody that needed to be paid, and they're trying to regroup this year, opening a new school, and after speaking with Mrs. Boston Ellis, if we reject their plan, even though they've fixed everything, it's not like the Department of Education said their plan's not bad, we said their plan's not bad, then it would go back to staff. Then staff would be in control of, by a certain date, October 2nd, or there's a certain date, that they have to work with the charter school, and if they can't come up with something that they both agree on, then it goes to the Department of Education. I can just picture this going to the Department of Education because I perceive us as being anti-charter schools, so therefore, and I perceive us as being anti-school choice. So therefore, I really don't want this going back into the hands of this district to make some subjective decision that does not come back to the board for approval. And I would like to reject the superintendent's suggestion that we don't accept this. And I'm sure that the board of directors will continue working with Mrs. Boston Ellis to answer any other questions that she might have. But this is our call. This is our call. The Department of Education hasn't told us we have to reject this. This is our call. And I'm pleading with the school board to not turn the charter school upside down. They've already were in an unfortunate situation last year where they got turned upside down, and I don't want to do that to them again. Let's just give them a chance to get back on their feet.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask Alice Posada to make her way to the podium. The recommendation tonight to reject their corrective action plan is based on information that DOE required the Francis Marion Military Academy to go through based on an audit. They presented a corrective action plan to us. We had a review panel review that, and Ms. Posada can tell us about that so you'll understand exactly what the corrective action plan said and did not say. Ms. Posada?
Yes, each year the charter schools are required to get an audit by a CPA firm. Within that audit, they are required, the CPA firm is whether to state whether the school is meeting certain issues that are grounds for meeting a state of financial emergency. For the state of Francis Marion, as you know, because I sent you an email in August, their auditors noted that they met 3 of the conditions for meeting a financial emergency, which included not paying creditors within 90 days, not paying wages for 3 months, and not being able to pay long-term debt. In the email that I sent you, I told you that we would be looking at this as a district and we would be coming back to ask for your direction, which is what we're doing tonight. The corrective action plan had many deficiencies in it. It showed that they had revenue coming in for transportation, but yet there was no expenditures for transportation. It showed that they were going to make very little debt service payments, even though their current interest due was $24,000 and next year's payments are $35,000. Well, if you only have a budget of $30,000, you're not making a dent in those long-term payments. We also felt that they should have at least a zero fund balance. Right now, they're at a $127,000 deficit. Even with a corrective action plan, they're only going to be out of the hole to negative $80,000. So as our ads to and or told you in that email, we're seeking your recommendation. Our recommendation based on the committee, which was Mr. Lankford, Mr. Gregory, Theresa Boston Ellis, myself, Penny McKee, and Susan Cox. We looked at the corrective action plan and we felt like we should not accept their corrective action plan as presented. So we're asking you to reject it and send it back to the school for them to correct those deficiencies.
There is the deadline, Ms. Posada, I believe, should you accept this recommendation, and I hope that you do, to reject this corrective action plan. They do have until October the 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Rejected tonight, we'll give them an opportunity. Certainly, our finance department will work with them, but the documents that they present to us must address the three things that Ms. Posada just shared with you. So there is time to do this.
Okay. The teachers, when the incident happened at the school and they lost some students overnight, the teachers were not paid, not paid because they didn't agree to this. They understood that on a certain date that the charter school would be able to pay them in full, and they understood that it was an incredible, unusual emergency, and they have been digging themselves out of it and starting up the addition school. You know, when we have, if we just don't see the kind of problems when we have an issue at a school, it doesn't happen to us like it happened to them. And the problem that I see is the people that you named that were on the committee that turned down the recommendation. A lot of the people are very anti school choice and anti-charter school. I've heard the comments in this room. My concern is that if it goes back to the school for them to make corrective actions, that no matter if they jumped to the moon, we would still turn them down. And it doesn't come back to the board. And I would like to reject the superintendent's recommendation and have the charter school, I'm sure, will work to continue to correct this so this school can get on their feet. It's the first of the year, get the students moving, and try to get this school off on some good footing. And if things haven't improved next year, well, then we'll look at that. But I feel like they've worked too hard at this point to not be understanding that something completely lost their administrator, they lost a teacher, they had a scandal, that we have been feeding them, apparently, students also from them, and I'm going to be doing some checking on that were level 1s and 2s into their school. And so therefore, they're trying to recover from that, from their previous administration that was accepting that. And I would like to just give the charter school a chance and let them correct the financial issues with you, but reject the superintendent's recommendation and let this school get on their feet.
Board, do y'all have anything?
I do. I see Dr. Demences is here, but Alice, when you, excuse me, Ms. Posada, when that committee met with Francis Marion, and the deficiency were told to them, did they say that if they could come back with something different?
We just wanted the board's direction on what to do, but based on their corrective action plan as presented, we did not feel like that was a sufficient document to get them to where we as a committee thought they should be, which is at a zero fund balance, not in a continual deficit, and to address the other things that we brought up. We just didn't think that the document was sufficient enough.
Ms. Posada, you mentioned that you all would be working with the charter school to help them with their financial issues if we rejected tonight.
Well, all we can do is present to them, these are the reasons that we're rejecting it, and if they present a budget that corrects those, then we would certainly expect that to be approved. But we wanted your direction, that's why we're bringing it to you.
It doesn't come back to us for approval, right?
Not before October 2nd, I don't believe we
So
could get on the...
it's just a very subjective thing. The board has no control of this whatsoever, once it leaves our hands like this.
No, because it's still going to come back to us.
No, it won't.
Yes, it will. They just said October 2nd.
No, it goes straight to it doesn't come back to the board.
Only if they cannot agree. If there's nothing worked out, then it would go to the state. But it would come back to us.
Okay,
But not before.
Alice, are we correct on that? It's coming back to us October the
I think it's just too
2nd.
subjective. I think these people hate school choice.
It would go to the Department of Education on October 2nd if we were not able to reach an agreement with the charter school.
Okay, we need to
And as
listen
our
to what she just
recommendation is
said.
now,
If we did not reach an agreement, it would go to the Department of Education.
that is true. Only if we do not reach an agreement.
Okay. Ms. Boynton, you had something else?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the budget, I'm looking at the deficit that they could continue to have, and I know Dr. Demences is here tonight. Is there any way that we can hear from him on where he thinks, because I would be really pleased to hear from him since he is here, and I understand everything you're saying, Ms. Posada. I appreciate you laying out the terms for us. Thank you.
And
Okay, now, when I look at what we're talking about here in reference to what we're doing here now, staff has worked to get us to this point where we have a plan. The plan is insufficient. Okay, now what I'm hearing is the superintendent is asking us to reject this plan so they can go back and work with this plan. Correct. Okay, now, what I'm also hearing is Mr. Dements is here. The things that he will present to this board, I'm sure he will be able to present to the group that he's working with. Mr. Crawford, I'll go to you and then
I'll call the question.
Well, I want to say something else. I still have something to say. Whenever we have issues at our schools, we always call the principals up and we talk with them. What is different about the charter school? This makes my point. We don't give them the same opportunities that we give the other principals or the heads of the other schools, because we will call them up and speak with them about it. And we're not giving Mr. Menendez the chance that we would give a principal at one of our traditional schools.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. It's been called a question, but I just want to just share this with you. Did y'all not work with Francis Marion?
We came to you to ask your direction.
After receiving the document, the corrective action plan from Francis Marion.
Which we received, we met, and as I told you in the email, we would be coming back to you to ask for your direction. And
Okay.
that's what we are doing.
So you're rejecting it. If we reject it, then you will be having an opportunity to talk
Correct.
with Francis Marion.
It'll
Is
never
that
come
correct?
back to us before it goes back to Tallahassee.
If they don't reach an agreement.
If they don't reach an agreement, it just goes to Tallahassee. And
Okay. Thank you, Ellis. Okay. Board, it been called the question. Okay. All in favor of the superintendent's recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion passed 4-1, and I will ask the superintendent, please direct the staff to work with Mrs. Dementes, and let's come up with something. And I would like to just say this, and for the people out there listening to all of this stuff about we don't like charter schools and all that, that's not true. And that's where I will leave it at. That's just simply not true. What I'm hearing here, we're rejecting it so they can go back and work with the thing, work with the budget, work with this stuff. It's not that we're saying, no, we don't want to do that. We're just saying, let's work together. And this is what that's what I'm hearing. Thank you. The motion passed 4-1. Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the following donation? $3,200 to Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary School from Madeline Slaughter. $4,000 to Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary School from Charles Collins. $1,500 to Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary School from Alan and Wendy's McMurray. $3,183.41 to Forest High School from the Forest High School Athletic Boosters. 40 Payless Shoe Stores gift cards valued at $25 with a total value of $1,000 to Fort McCoy School from the Avalette Post, number 19. $4,500 to Horizon Academy, Marion Oaks from Duke Energy for many grants. $2,120 to Lakeware High School from One Blood, Inc. $1,013.20 to Maplewood Elementary School from Maplewood Elementary PTO. $1,051 to Marion County Public School homeless needy children from the Marion County Tax Collector. $8,500 to Marion Technical Institute from Marion Regional Manufacturing Association. $4,450 to Marion Technical Institute from the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $1,000 to Stan Wesdale Elementary School from Shirley Jean Hall Tettle and NHJ Hall Family Trust. $3,000 to Westport High School from the Florida High School Athletic Association. May I have a motion and a second?
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Crawford, second by Mrs. Boynton. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. James, I'm seeing the voting now for 3,200. I totaled it up, was 38,517.
Okay. Well, we're gonna let you do things.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
We're gonna let you
That's
do.
a lot more than 3,200. That's, you know. Okay, that is a lot of money.
Okay, motion
Okay,
passed 5-0.
okay.
Ms. Ely, you have,
That is a lot of money given back to our schools, $38,000. We know that our businesses and our parents out there, and it's quite a few of these, our parents, are supporting the schools, and you're supporting it in a way that our schools could really use that money for many, many, many things. I'm just very happy that we have so much community support, but $38,517, thank you so much. Keep it coming. Thank you.
thank you. Meeting reminders. The board will be holding interviews for our in-house attorney on Wednesday, September 17th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. A special board meeting will follow at 5:30 p.m. to determine the final selection for an in-house attorney.
Mr. James, may I bring something to the attention of the board?
Yes.
I have been asked by Ms. Krasalka today, there has been a request made by one of the applicants for the in-house position to appear via Skype. That is, she wasn't sure what to do about that. She wasn't sure whether it was something that needed a vote by the board. I don't believe it's the kind of thing that needs to be publicly advertised. I think it's just a sense of the board as to whether you will entertain one of them by Skype, which, for those of us that have only done that once or twice, is a meeting through a computer. And so I'd like to get the sense of the board as if you would approve that, or whether we should tell that applicant to either be here or not be considered.
Board discussion.
I will discuss. I believe if that person really wants an interview and wants to be part of our school system, he or she needs to come here so we can talk in person.
I agree. I agree.
Board. The biggest concern I have with all of this, if you agree on that, one of the concerns I have, and I first of all, board, I really felt that I needed to be in Vero Beach because I wanted to hear what they were saying. But I'd like to just share with you this fact. We are putting together a candidate of 3 now for a job that could possibly be with us for 20 years or more.
We had 4.
Well, one of them you just got rid of, didn't you?
If the sense of the board is we tell that person to either be here or not be considered, then you have 4 if that person shows up and 3 otherwise.
Okay, and my biggest concern is that we have been working on an in-house attorney for a long time. And for us not to open it up and really just broaden it out and just try and get the best candidates out there, because there got to be more than 4 out there that would come to us. There got to be. And if we don't have, if we have a job where only 4 people want it, we got a problem here. And I know you guys are saying, well, we had 8. But 4 of them didn't fill out the forms correctly. And now we dropped it to 3.
I thought we found that we had a glitch.
Well, there was a glitch, but we still got 4.
Just like we thought, we had a glitch.
Well, we still got 4. Board, what I am saying is, as long as we have been working to get an attorney, we're going to narrow our field down to 3. And I'm looking at this thing here, a special board meeting to determine the final selection for an in-house attorney. I am suggesting to, again, board, that we look at reopening this thing and try and get really a pretty good little group of people in here, because there's a lot of people out there.
Well, you realize, Mr. James, if we reopen it, we're gonna have to do some salary adjustments. We looked at that.
Why not?
We looked at that at our meeting as a thought, and we didn't get a consensus on changing the salary, but I do want to take the time to thank Ms. Stacy for bringing it, to ask them to look to see if there was a glitch, and indeed there was a glitch, which made it a better, I mean, I felt better about our applicants who did apply. So, Ms. Stacy, hats off to you for that. And, but Mr. James, if we table this, we would not be able to probably hire an attorney for at least how many months, because there's going to be advertising that would have to take effect. There would be, and I know you know all of these things, there will be, we have to post it.
Guys, we have.
We had this discussion on Thursday.
Well, and I'm having it again, so let me finish. What I got is that we have had one attorney for the last 20 years. Okay, now, and all of a sudden, we're down to 4 attorneys. We got 3 if we don't take one on strike, and we're not willing to take go the extra mile to make sure that we are really opening this pool up to make sure that we have some people there that are out there. If we had to raise the salary, why not?
Mr. James, we had consensus last week that let's go ahead with those 3 or 4 candidates, and we can opt not to hire any of them, but let's go ahead and go forward with this. This has been going on for 2 or 3 months now, and to wait to bring new school board members on, bring them up to snuff on what's been going on, I feel like we need to at least try to interview these candidates and see if one of them are interested. And Ms. Boynton is right. We would have to go back to the drawing board with the salary and many other things. This is going to take longer. Ms. Siegle, bless her heart, is driving from Gainesville to come down here to help us out, but she has another job as an attorney in Gainesville, so I just think we need to go on with the interviews on the 17th.
And Mr. James, 20 years ago when we hired our attorney, we have 4 applicants now, which is 3 more than we had then.
So that made it right then.
Well, we kept her for 20 years, and she was the only applicant, as I recall, back then. So, we're 3 or 4 times better than we were then. So it worked for us for 20 years, and so I'm with you, Miss Ely. Let's get this show on the road here and get this done.
The world has turned over twofold, and I just want to remind the board that we're looking at an opportunity to really upgrade. And I know that you all are saying, oh, we can reject this or that, but I will tell you again, whoever the board is, I have the utmost confidence that they can sit there and read these applications as well. Okay, we have agreed that we will continue with the process. I just want to make sure that all of us understand that we're running downhill.
No, we had this conversation Thursday.
Well, we're still running downhill. Okay. The next administrative briefing and work session is scheduled for Thursday, September 18th at 9 a.m. The purpose of this session is to determine the directive for the 2016 health insurance, review and update staff plan, and receive a presentation on a balanced scorecard. Board, your concern. We'll start with Mr. Crawford.
Nothing.
Ms. Stacy.
Yes, I got a couple of things I'd like to talk. Well, one I'd like to address to Mr. Tomyn. You can answer me back whenever, maybe later about this, and maybe we are doing this, but September is Celebration Freedom Week. And and you can fill me in later exactly what we're doing, because there's a state statute, 1003.42, that the students are supposed to be reciting the Declaration of Independence, and they're supposed to be doing that every single day, and they're supposed to recite at least the first section. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. They're supposed to be chanting that every single morning at either homeroom or a point in the day, and they're supposed to do that for about a week, according to the statute. This has been in place for a few years, and I don't know, have we been doing this every single morning in September?
I can speak for when I was principal. The week, that particular week, we worked on the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. We had a morning show each day. We had a presentation by our fifth graders so that all of our students were able to get information about that, as well as, I believe, our social studies person from the district office put a packet together for all of the teachers. The lead teachers are working with the teachers in the school, so all of them are receiving information as to what they can do that week, and that's been in place for...
Well, the statute's clear. It says that they should be reciting this. And
we did that.
Every single day. So that's my question about that. My other concern is I have had some parents come to me wanting to opt out of the Common Core testing. I've been in touch with a lot of the parents around the state, and I know school boards are being unseated all over the place, where I know the State School Board Association, a couple of the officers or board members there were unseated in their districts of Indian River County and Volusia County, and I know Melanie over in Volusia County. And so there's people have pretty much had it, and the parents are now, if the districts aren't going to opt out, they want a way for the students to opt out. And in collecting my information, there are 3 paths to opting out of FCAT. They can refuse the test on test day. They can request alternative learning activities at school in lieu of the test. But the school board really needs to put forth a policy so that we decide what we're going to do with those students. Are they going to sit and stare during the test? That's one option. The school board can make them sit and stare during the test, or they can let them leave the room and go into an activity room. Parents can actually keep their children home, and then that's another option that they can do on test day. I know that right now there's absolutely no ramifications for anyone except 3rd grade, and I also know that 3rd graders can actually homeschool the very, very last few weeks of school and come back into public school in 4th grade without taking the 3rd grade FCAT and without being concerned about remediation. So since parents are going to be coming to us, and this is something that's that needs to be taken care of, it's time for someone to stand up for the teachers. Like I said, complacency fuels complacency. Courage can support heroes. Our teachers are heroes in the classroom. They have been putting up with a lot of this nonsense getting worse and worse every single year, and it's time for someone to take the bull by the horn. We've led the state in class size violations. We've led the state in all kinds of things. It would be nice to lead the state in something good for parents and be a district where the school board comes together and puts a policy together that will meet these parents' needs if they want to do that, because it is their option to do it, and we might as well put a policy in place that works for them to do that. It's ridiculous for children who are gifted to have a bad test day in 3rd grade and have to go into reading remediation and that sort of, it's just ridiculous. It's out of control. Testing's a great thing. We all need to know where we are at a certain snapshot in time, but school has become sanctions and punishment, and I would like to ask Mr. James if we can please work towards a workshop or something where we can address some of these concerns so that we can possibly put a policy together so parents can opt out of this testing.
Okay. I'll come back and answer that in just a little bit. Let me go to Ms. Ely.
There was an excellent article that Mr. Callahan put in paper today about test fatigue and the way too much testing in not just Marion County, but all over Florida and all over the United States. Having been a teacher, I enjoyed teaching so much, but I didn't have the pressure of testing and what that one test 1 week does to children. I wish we could just go back to the CTBS tests and not make it such a big bunch of pressure, because it's not fair to the kids. I'm going to tell my story again. I believe I told it at the school board meeting before. I have 2 grandchildren that both are honor roll students, and they both scored a 2 in math in 5th grade. Does that tell you something? They made B or A the year-end test grade, and they scored a 2. So one of them is in a remediation class, which is so unfair because it was 1 test 1 week. I have another story that I've told before, but I'm going to say it again. My older grandson, when he was in the elementary school 2 years ago, he said to me, he says, Amo, that's what he calls me, he says, Amo, I never learn much in school anymore because all I do is take tests every day. The only day I learn anything is when I go to the gifted class. So I want our kids to enjoy school, to learn, and, you know, we have chapter tests, unit tests, spelling tests. Those are okay, but we don't need to kill our kids with tests. Quarterly tests would be a great way to go. Not every week, the teachers are testing more than they're teaching, and I would like to figure out how many minutes they're testing versus how many minutes they're teaching. It's not fair to our kids, and it's not fair to our teachers. As one person, as a school board, we can't opt to get out of FCAT, or we would lose $280 million funding like Lee County tried to do. But we can certainly collectively talk about this and see what we can do as far as joining with other school board associations to help our kids enjoy school and not go crazy with their tests. I've just got one more thing to say. I'm sorry. This is my infomercial. We've got Coupons for Education on sale in the schools, and it's a great book. It's $20, and parents, and even if grandparents, you can go to any school and buy them. They're $20. Lots of coupons. I've already used $12 of the coupons in here, but $8.50 goes back to the school where you buy your coupon book, and it's a great way to support your schools. The rest of that money goes to the foundation, which goes for many, many programs, the mentoring program, the grants for great ideas, the Golden Apple. So please buy a coupon book, and buy some for the people in your office if you've got people who work for you. It's a great little gift. Thank you.
Ms. Boynton.
Thank you, Ms. Stacy and Ms. Ely. Board members, we know that the Florida Standards, also known as Common Core, has begun a new way to think about standardized testing. And we know what Lee County was told, what the ramifications would be if they opted out, and you just told us how much money would be lost in our schools. So I'm proposing that we have a workshop to develop a resolution on our non-support of the Common Core Florida Standards of standardized testing. And I do think if we looked at a policy that would be in line, that would, help our children. We're not here to, to punish them, per se. You have a story, I have a story. I walked out of my office, out the back door, and the real estate agent was coming around the corner, and he was saying, "Oh, Miss Boynton, my daughter is not even in school yet, and she's heard so much about Common Core that she cries." And I was like, oh, that's not where we want our children to be. School should be an environment where they're eager to learn, and we have teachers that are so eager to teach them that a test has put a frenzy in the hearts of children about going to school, about taking a test. And we know that in the classroom, they achieve. You can look at their report cards and see A's and B's, and then one test defines them for the rest of their life. And I believe that we should have a workshop on it and drop a resolution. Okay. I have more than one thing, though, so I wanted to answer to that. I also wanted to say to Mr. Tomyn, I know you received an email from a parent today about some of her concerns at a school. I want you to know I did call the parent, and we worked out that there will be a conference between her and the principal and the assistant principal and dean at that school, and I promised that parent that I would go in and sit with her and so that we can work through any of her concerns. And she was so agreeable, so I'm so excited about that for her. So, okay. Got one more and last thing is, board members, I've talked with many parents, many people, many community leaders who requested that I think about having transparency at our board meetings. They have asked for a full viewing of the entire meeting, including what we now have as the untelevised section. I'm asking that we have a workshop to readdress the situation and to have the entire portion of our board meeting televised. That we ask our public relations department, our media department, to present to us if there would be any additional costs to televise the entire meeting. This, I hope, will improve the board's community relationship and stop the opinion that we're trying to hide something.
Okay. We will address that, and we'll get a workshop on it. I'll put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
Ms. Siegle,
I have nothing to report.
Ann,
No, sir.
you're almost home, Ann.
I know.
Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Addressing Mrs. Stacy's comment about Celebrate Freedom Week or month, whatever it might be, Erin Howe is our social studies coordinator, and we do have a work session next week. I'm going to ask, or we'll ask Erin to either come here or prepare something for us that I'll distribute to you so you can see what we're doing for this particular celebration. We have been doing it for a number of years, and we're continuing this year. Secondly, Mr. James has already addressed this issue. Ms. Stacy, you made some pretty inflammatory comments today, this evening about us being anti-charter school, and I was personally offended by that because it's not accurate. Mrs. Stacy, my staff and I are in favor of great learning opportunities for students, and we're certainly much in favor of sound physical management, and we'll continue to do our best to manage those two things. Thirdly, I'll remind the board that College and Career Expo is next Thursday evening from 5:30 to 7:30. We partner with the College of Central Florida in their gymnasium. Over 80 different institutions and job opportunity groups will be there talking to our students, and I would encourage you to go. It's a really great and festive occasion. And then finally, we talk about the good teachers that we have. We have a number of things. I know Kevin Christian put some things out, but I think it's important to also say these things on TV where other people can hear them also. One that you have not heard about that just came out is Mrs. Natasha Murphy from Westport High School is now our Reading Teacher of the Year, nominated by her principal. That's a pretty cool deal. Mrs. Peggy Brookins from Forest High School is recently appointed to the President's Advisory Council on Educational Excellence for African Americans. Jane Elsperman, you know, is in Washington right now, nominated by the Florida Association of School Administrators as Principal of the Year. We won't know anything. She's just being recognized now, and should she be the winner of that, they will actually come and do a presentation here in Marion County later. Dean Marino and other fine students is a quarterfinalist and one of 222 music teachers nationwide for the Music Educator Award presented by the Recording Academy and the Grammy Foundation. John McCollum, dual principal at H Street Elementary in Osceola, is one of 4 middle school principals statewide recognized by Florida DOE as a finalist for Principal Achievement Award for Outstanding Leadership. Buddy Oswald, who's come before us many times, you also know has received a number of awards, recently received the American Civic Education Teacher Award, one of 3 teachers nationwide to win this award. And then Dale Wade, one of our Golden Apple teachers, also is one of 3 finalists for the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice 2014 Teacher of the Year. We have some fine folks working for us, and I continually encourage you to pat them on the back for they're doing a fantastic job. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. One of the things I would like to, first of all, thank Ms. Boynton for taking the leadership while I was out on Thursday, and I want to commend her for a fine job. Didn't get what I want, but that's all right. Well, you had a good time.
But there's 5 of us.
Okay. One of the things I just want to share with you, I am part of the Florida leadership team for the Florida School Boards Association, and I had the opportunity to work with the school board and the constituents throughout the state. And one of the things that we were working on, and the thing I would like to first of all commend Judy Sanetti. And Judy Sanetti is with our Education Foundation. And one of the things that when you're moving around the state and you're meeting people, you find out what you're doing, and some of the things that we are doing in this county is really good. Engage in education was one of the key things that was presented to the entire Florida School Boards Association about engaging education in Marion County. And one of the things that I will say, they was really very taken back by the fact that we were really making a genuine effort in Marion County to look at what we're doing with our school district. And when you have that many districts together and your district is being singled out for doing some neat things, hats off to the Education Foundation and for the things that we're doing. One of the things that we also discussed, and let me just say that we really discussed the Lee County situation and what happened in Lee County and why the school board came back to the table, or why this one person that was on the prevailing side came back and put it back on the board that we that they would not opt out of it because of the financial things and the financial obligation and how it really would impact that school district in terms of those dollars. But by the same token, we had a very good conversation in reference to the fact that the school board association, the Florida School Board Association, adopted a resolution to opt out of testing. And for your information, board, here's a copy of what they presented. Mr. Superintendent. Thank you. And this is what it says. The Florida School Board Association take any action necessary to compel the state to adopt a comprehensive opt-out policy that would allow parents to have their students to be excused without penalty for participating in statewide standardized or test-required assessment, and compel the state to create a well-defined alternative path for students to demonstrate progress and proficiency. Compel the state to bring an immediate halt to the practice of using statewide standardized testing or state-required assessment, resulting in any purpose other than diagnostic purposes. So the School Board Association, the Florida School Board Association adopted this resolution. Okay, and when we look at what they're asking, and initially we had a really good response, just like we have here. Everybody, all the district felt the same way, that we were over-testing and we need to opt out of it. But the biggest contention that we had, and the reason we had to table this, because it was brought back because of the wording. And we are constantly working as we go through some of our legislative sessions to try and work out the wording so people can live with this. We had the opportunity yesterday to work with the Central Florida Coalition of School Boards. And the Central Florida Coalition of School Boards is the coalition that we work with. And we will have another meeting to try and resolve some of the wording difficulties that we had in reference to this. Halt immediately was one of the things. The word compel, they were having difficulty with the word compel. So when we think in terms of what we are talking about here, the movement is on. And we need to, at some point, have a group of people, just like they have in Orlando, opt out of testing and things like that. But we have to have a plan. And I will strongly urge the school board, when we start looking at what we want to do and start meeting with our constituents in this area, that we have a plan other than opt out without assessment, because there is more to this than that. Because you got the value added adjustment model and valuations and things. So all of these things have to be worked out. But it was a very good meeting in reference to this. Each one of you have a copy of the original one. And I know that the Central Florida Coalition will be looking at coming together and providing some information additionally. Some other things that I think you need to, if you're not familiar with the Step Up Scholarship, then we need to really look at what that scholarship is, because we entered, the Florida School Board Association entered into a lawsuit on the Step Up Scholarship, but there is some ramifications that may be coming our way. One thing that was talked about was the possible loss of salaries for school board members, the possible loss of funding per se for the School Board Association. So these things are issues that you really need to get involved with what is actually occurring there with the Step Up Scholarship, because there is some ramifications for that. Again, it was a very good meeting, and I will tell you again, as a school board, we really need to get involved with what we're doing. And again, one of the things that they will say, we will pool our resources with the 7 largest districts, so we will have some teeth in making this thing work. The big 7, that's what they call them. And that's Miami-Dade, Hillsborough, and Orange, and things like that. That's the big 5. That's all I have. This is what we're working on. And this is what I think we need to really consider. Thank you. Okay. At this time, I wish to acknowledge that board members have received alternative replacement lists for students through August 22nd, 2014. Are there any parents in the audience who wish to speak on behalf of a student regarding a disciplinary matter? Seeing none, the chair recognizes School Board Attorney Ms. Susan Siegle.
I am notifying you that advice is needed regarding the pending litigation styled City of Ocala versus School Board of Marion County. Pursuant to Section 286.011(8) Florida statutes, I've requested a session with the board for the sole purpose of discussing settlement negotiations and strategy in regard to this litigation. I have asked the board secretary to cause reasonable public notice of the time and date of this session and the names of the persons attending to be published. As required by the statute, only the superintendent or his designee, board members, and legal counsel can be present. I have asked a court reporter to record the session, as is also required by the statute. Her notes will be fully transcribed and filed with Brenda Flott-Ketter as clerk of the school board. Upon the conclusion of the litigation, the transcript will be made public record.
We acknowledge your request. The term of the period to be in compliance with Florida statute. Board members, you have heard our attorney's request. As chair, I'm announcing an attorney-client session. The statute states that I also must announce the commencement of this session, the estimated length of this session, and the name of the persons attending. The session will commence as soon as the room is cleared and the court reporter is set up, following a 5-minute recess to clear the room. It will last approximately 1 hour. Okay. The names of the person attending are Angie Boynton, Ron Crawford, Carol Ely, Bobby James, Nancy Stacy, Superintendent George Tomyn, and Attorney Siegle. I declare a recess to be followed by an attorney-client session, so I declare a recess at this time.